So for context, because this video is going to require some, I recently finished watching Andor. I thought it was beautifully written, really. A refreshing break from all the merciless slop we'd been fed recently in form of media. Again, great writing, grounded characters, and a sense of gravity that meant that the characters' actions mattered and had consequences. When I was done with Andor, and fun fact, Andor was supposed to be like 5 or 6 seasons. They squeezed it into 2. So only 2 seasons of Andor. When I was done with it, I was itching for more. So I thought, what better place to look than the franchise itself, Star Wars. Famed and fabled, I'd been told of its greatness since I was but a wee child. I could not wait. So I looked up what order to watch the series in, and turns out Rogue One, the movie, starts exactly where the season ends. Season 2 of Andor, that is. So I thought to myself, this really must be the best way to watch the series. So I got to watching, Rogue One. In my mind, once I was done with watching Rogue One, I was going to move on to Star Wars Episode 4 for the Battle of Yavin, then 5, 6, then move on to the prequel trilogy, and so on and so forth. This was before I actually watched Rogue One. After I was done watching Rogue One, I took a deep breath because it not only had halted all plans for watching the rest of the Star Wars movies, but it had also somehow managed to ruin Andor for me. So sit back and strap in for this plot synopsis, and there will be spoilers for Rogue One, but trust me, you're not really missing out on anything. So the one and also the only promise it definitely delivered on is that it starts off exactly where Andor ends. And in the very first few minutes, the movie is starting to show its age. Rogue One came out in 2016. That's about half a decade before Andor. And even accounting for the time difference, I think the difference in visual fidelity and just the effects in general is crazy. I think outdoor environments are okay for the most parts. It's just the indoor environments and the effects for the most part, except for a few effects that were great, for the most part are just bad. Anyway, we open with our introduction to Galen Erso, a former Imperial scientist turned rogue who's now living in peace with his wife and child on Lahmu, a moon, and he's become a farmer now. We're also showing him talking to Saw Gerrera, so that's how we know he has ties to the rebellion. He tells Saw to pick his family up as the military director, Greenwich, arrives on the scene, and he wants to take Erso back for his research because they're constructing this big weapon and they need Erso to complete the research. So despite being told to run away, Erso's wife takes a shot at Greenwich and resultingly just dies. The stormtroopers this time actually aim correctly and kill her. The military director, Krennic Erso, orders his goons to look for the daughter, but she hides under a fake rock. And that kind of tech is beyond Imperial search scanners, so she's safe. Saw rescues her. And we have our obligatory time skip. The daughter is now a prisoner in an Imperial labor camp. And we move on to our boy Andor. He's meeting a contact for information. Previously, at the end of the show, Andor, the protagonist, Andor, finds and rescues the surrogate daughter, an assistant of basically the heart of the rebellion, at least in the early days, Luthen Rael, and the name of the assistant is Cleamar. Clea relays the information she got from Luthen before he was captured, that the Empire has actually done all this kyber crystal searching for one purpose, a weapon of mass destruction. Except this time it's not an Iraq, and it's definitely real. So the kyber crystal hunting, including the genocide on Gorman, was for this giant weapon called the Death Star, a planet destroyer. The Council, though, has its doubts for some reason, so Andor heads out to meet this supposed informant who might have information regarding this matter. Which, by the way, I find very weird. You're not going to believe the daughter of the person who was basically the heart of the rebellion, but you're good to go on the word of a random informant. If I was being generous here, though, I'd say they just want to double check. He finds out that his earlier information of a Star Destroyer is in fact correct, and he has to kill a couple stormtroopers in the process, so he kills the informant afterwards. Now, one could argue that the death of this informant was unnecessary, but you could also say that Andor was just being ruthlessly careful. Keep that in mind, though. It'll be important later. At this point in the story, Galen Erso, the scientist who defected, has sent a message to an Imperial pilot to Saw Gerrera. The Rebel Alliance knows this, but they can't get Saw Gerrera to cooperate. In order to gain his cooperation, they rescue Erso's daughter, Jyn Erso, from the Imperial labor camp she's in. Andor and his posse leave with her to visit Saw on Jeddah, where they meet the only interesting character of the movie, the blind dude, who was maybe not a Jedi. Now, at this point in the story, the Death Star is ready and has a message to the rebels. The Empire wants to destroy Jeddah City, the last remaining memory of the Jedi. Our gang arrives, and after a pointless and mindless action sequence which results in them getting captured by Gerrera's forces, Jyn is able to view the message from Galen Erso. He tells her that he's hidden a weakness deep inside Death Star where the Empire cannot find it. A single blow to the supposed weakness would supposedly trigger a chain reaction that would destroy the entire ship. However, the only wrinkle in this plan is that they need to get the Death Star plans from this well-guarded Imperial outpost in Scarif in order for this plan to work. Now, there is some very campy, outright bad acting in the scene, and Mads Mikkelsen plays Urso in the movies, Galen Urso. From everything I've heard, he's supposed to be fantastic, but this is the only thing I've seen him in, and his acting here is horrendous. He also called Jin my Stardust. Now remember that. That'll be important later too. We meet the pilot sent by Gillen, who is now being held in captivity by Saw Gerrera after he unleashed some kind of mind-bending, mind-breaking alien beast to get the truth out of him when he was already telling him the truth. That's okay though, since just the words, "You're here with the message," are a cure-all for all kinds of mind-breaking aliens. Death Star arrives over Jeddah and fires its laser, and the city starts going to bits. Our gang saves the pilot, the blind dude, and his sidekick, and get out just before they're killed, and thank God for them saving the blind guy, or I would have quit watching here. As a positive to be taken from the film, when the Death Star does obliterate Jeddah City with its laser, the destruction CGI is absolutely amazing, unless it was practical effects and they actually nuked the real Jeddah, in which case, A for commitment. Also, on a side note, Saw Gerrera does the fucking customary "I refuse to be rescued, my time has come," and dies here, which absolutely overshadows anything positive I might have to say about this fucking sequence. Our gang moves on to the base where Urso is being held to do his research thanks to the information from our newly found pilot. Andor's orders specifically, not from the Council of the Rebellion, but from the military leadership, are to eliminate the scientist as soon as he has eyes on him. Eliminate Galen Urso, that is. Now remember, Jin is the only one that saw the message. The other one that saw the message was Saw, and he kind of died. So now she's trying to convince everyone that she saw this message no one else saw. And for obvious reasons, everyone is skeptical. Most skeptical of them all is Andor himself, whose orders are still to get rid of Galen. Jin does not know this, but apparently the blind dude from Jeddah does, because the Force moved darkly around him when he left the ship. So she tries to follow him when they disembark to get Galen. Everyone except for the robot leave the ship. And yeah, they have a robot. Missed that little detail earlier. My bad. It doesn't matter. He dies. Nothing matters in this fucking movie. Now, Andor gets the high ground, and he has a clear shot at Galen Urso, and he refuses to take it. Now, I'm gonna discuss my overarching problems with the plot, believe that, but this scene in particular really pisses me off. After all that character building throughout Andor, the TV series, and after killing his own informant in this very movie, he just refuses to take the shot. This is unintentional character assassination levels of stupidity. Now, Jin just happens to find a ladder to the base that Urso is being held in that's just conveniently there. She climbs it, gets onto the base. Remember, at this point, Andor's aircraft hasn't had contact with a home base in a while, so they just send in a squadron to get rid of Galen Urso, just in case. Andor tries to warn them off because he's concerned for Jin's safety, which again makes no sense. He's putting the life of a girl he just met over the rebellion's objectives. I don't know how we went from ruthless rebellion believer Andor to pussy whipped Andor when he's not even getting any in the span of like 60 minutes. It really is crazy. I'm honestly getting bored telling you about this plot of this movie, so I'm just gonna shorthand the rest before I go to sleep recording this video. Galen Urso basically confirms the existence of the Death Star. The rebellion hears of this news, and half of them want to hide under a rock while the other half want to throw everything at the Death Star plans. In the end, Andor is ordered not to do anything because, again, Jin Urso is the only one who saw the message. Andor, however, shows the rebellion who the rebellious one truly is when he sides with Jin, and they hijack a stolen Imperial ship anyway. They get into Scarif because the Imperial pilot and the stolen aircraft stage a diversion and get to the building containing the plans. The robot stays behind, and Andor and Jin get the giant pipe of hard drives. Turns out they need a password to access the plans, and guess what the password is? You guessed it. It's Stardust. This is absolute cinema, really. Just the most secretive plans in the universe, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, they retrieve the plans by doing some good old-fashioned climbing, but what's this? Military Director Krennic, however you want to say it, has arrived on the scene at the orders of Darth Vader himself, and he shot our boy Andor. Andor falls down to the depths of IT as Jin tries to escape. Who Krennic or Krennic could have also shot in that moment, but chose not to for dramatic effect. Now, Jin and Krennic are having a standoff on the roof with a laser blaster in the hands of Krennic and the plans in the hands of Jin, when suddenly Krennic is shot by none other than Andor, who survived his basically confirmed death and saved the day after all. At this point, the rebellion has sent their fleet over to Scarif to destroy the protective shield and recover the planets, which they do. The Death Star, unfortunately, has also arrived, and it destroys the planet, or at least the base. The base, I'm not sure if it destroys the planet, as all our protagonists die completing the mission, which again, to give the movie some props. The CGI here is very good, and also all of them dying in the context of the movie is good, since it represents the movie's theme of sacrifice. But come on, bro, we just watched 2 seasons of Andor for him to die like this. It also doesn't change the fact that the entire movie feels like a rushed bot job and only a stain on the beautiful piece of media that is Andor. Again, if any Star Wars fans are watching this one, please let me know if I should continue watching or quit here, since I am extremely interested in the series, but I don't know if it'll be worth it after this fucking snooze fest. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.